Every parent has you in that. Do you see yourself in it? What's the golden calves you're still worshiping and making? So, each person has an addiction counselor, a therapist, and a spiritual counselor. We have psychiatrists from UCLA. So for people who need psychotropic medication, it's available and they're constantly checked. Mental illness and addiction go together, obviously. But really what addiction is at its heart is a malady of the soul. All addicts believe they're not worthy. They don't matter. They live in comparison and they always come up short. Even though they may act haughty, even though they may act greater than, they're always feeling lesser than. I mean, yeah, my brother makes an announcement. He's 3 years older than I am. He makes an announcement he's going to go to rabbinical school. Well, what are you going to do to top a rabbi? The only thing that made sense to me was to be a criminal. Because I was always trying to measure up or be good enough, not realizing that I am. Each one of you is good enough. Every person that walks through the doors of PT2 is good enough. And we do this because we know that they matter. We know that our world is less because they've been lost. So we have 5 core beliefs, values. The first one is everyone matters, as I've just spoken about. Second one is tshuva, which I'm going to speak about, do a workshop on later. But some of you might not be in my workshop. So I have extra sheets for you. You can look at the source sheets I have. The third value is obligation. Here's the deal about obligation. A lot of people learn obligation as chayav, as a yoke. We're not beasts of burden, ladies and gentlemen. We are human beings. We get to do this. We get to live our life. I get to be obligated to show up. I'm on a trip of 10 days. It's the longest my wife and I have been separated since my days in rabbinical school. Oh, by the way, that lady, Harriet Rosetto, who founded Beit Tshuva, well, after she founded, after she created it, we had her come out to the prison because we wanted to talk to her. She's a social worker. What would she know about what convicts needed? Because it was originally opened as a halfway house for Jewish men and women coming out of jail and prison. It was financed by a FEMA grant, one time. So she came out and she was really snotty and defensive. She thought I was loud and arrogant. And she said to me, if you're so smart, when you get out, come out. And I did. I showed up after I got out of prison and went to Beit Tshuva and I said, I'm here to work. I've had every job there except founder. And in 1990, we got married. So, of course, she's brilliant. Marrying me is the one question. But here's the deal, okay? I need you. I need you to see me, so I have to be real and I have to be open. I have to tell you where I'm at. I have to allow you to see my soul. I have to be that vulnerable in order to live and in order to have community, in order to be obligated. I get to do these things. I get to be here. I get to speak to you and with you. I get to learn with you. What greater gift could we have than the gift of getting to live? I go to work every day. I get up every morning when I say Modeh Ani Lefenecha Melech Chai V'Kayom Shechazar David Ish Masih Lechem Harav Emunasecha. I am absolutely ecstatic with joy. I have an opportunity to be faithful to God and faithful to Yiddishkeit and faithful to values and principles. I have this opportunity today. Do you realize this opportunity that you have? Do you rejoice in it every day? That's what we teach at Beit Shuvah. That's what we model. That's what we live. I'm obligated to have every soul that comes through my doors, passes in front of me. So, even though I'm the senior rabbi, I've been CEO and COO and all these things, Harriet's door and my door are always open. Anybody can walk in. A resident can have a beef with a staff person and they're not automatically wrong, they might be right. Think about this. You as students might go to the dean because you might be right and the dean's got to have an open door. I can get myself into trouble, trust me, all by myself in a closet with me. And I can do that.
When we say open door, how open are we talking about?
Mine's wide open. So, knowing that everybody matters and I'm obligated to meet everybody where they're at, I get to continually seek wisdom. You know, Pirkei Avot says, make for yourself a teacher. So I'm going to ask you students and rabbis, whoever else is here, how many of you have a spiritual guide? Good. A few. That is wonderful. I've had a spiritual guide. I started in prison with Rabbi Mel Silverman, then I had Rabbi Jonathan Omerman, and for the last 25 years, it's been Rabbi Ed Feinstein. Rabbi Feinstein, I meet every week. The both of us are in town. We study, we talk, we figure out life. And he knows my soul and I know his. There's no greater experience than having somebody know you and love you with all your foibles. That can only happen when you can accept your own imperfections. Think about how often, I'm sure nobody here, but people you know always try and be perfect. And if it doesn't go right, they blame somebody else because chas v'chalila that it should be their fault. Do you realize what they're doing? They're trying to be God. Kodesh Baruch Hu is perfect. My wife disagrees, but the Kodesh Baruch Hu is perfect, so every time I try and be perfect, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to take God's place. So I want you to know something. I don't want to live in a world where I'm God, so I'm sure you don't either. Do you really want to be the end-all be-all? Do you really want to stay that isolated? That's separate? By continually seeking wisdom, I know that And I remind myself, I don't know it all. So I don't do much teaching in Big Tube, I do a lot of learning. I'm going to learn with everybody. And if I can't learn from every experience, then I'm the one who's unconscious. I'm the one who's hiding. I'm begging you all to come out from your hiding. I'm begging you all to come out from your hiding because you're going into positions of great power and great leadership and great need. So that somebody who has a mental illness or somebody who has an addiction knows they can go to their person, you. Be heard, be seen, be loved, be held. Only happens when you know how much you matter and they matter. When you're able to do your own tshuva. When obligation is I get to do this. And I'm always seeking wisdom. I'm always learning. The fifth core value is keeping faith. I have a deep faith. I have a deep faith that the Kodesh Baruch Hu never will let us down. I have a deep faith that comes from my experience. That the Kodesh Baruch Hu has given me a life way beyond anything I could have dreamed and probably more than what I deserve. And that faith gives me the courage to connect and to commit. Commit to being with you, being with my community, being with my family, being human. These are the values on which Beit Shuvah is based. These are the values which we live. We have 140 beds, 140 people who are always in residence, and we have another 35 who live off-site in places that we control. We have never told anybody they could not come because they don't have money. We have a $10 million budget. We have to raise $6 million plus because 70% of the people that come to Beit Shuvah pay $500 or less, and we're a long-term program. So people stay the average is 9 to 12 months. We help them get on their feet in recovery because anybody who says if you have to go away to rehab that you can get it in 28 days is lying. It's like somebody can go to somebody who has mental illness can go to a hospital for 7 days and then they're fine. The medications are perfect and they'll be fine. It's a lie. A lie from insurance companies, but that's a different topic. So it's a 4 to 6 month primary care program. Then we help people get jobs. We have a career center. Help people get jobs, find careers, go to college. Some people help them get their GEDs. Then we help them through that first transition of getting a job and then finding apartments, etc. Housing is a tremendously difficult thing for people who are in recovery, new in recovery, because nobody wants to rent to them. And they have terrible credit from all the apartments that they left. So we work with Jewish apartment owners. And they give us a hard time. I've had to sign personally with Groise Yehuda. And look at my south side. I've taken money out of my own pocket to give somebody enough of a deposit so that they can put down 2 or 3 months because somebody didn't want to rent it. So we do all this because our mission, our calling, our obligation, our get to is to help anybody and everybody who walks across our threshold, who calls on the phone. So, we get 600 calls a month. We have 20 beds to turn every month. That's the average. There's no place else that does what we do as a charity. There's no place else that integrates actually Jewish values, Jewish spirituality, 12 steps in psychotherapy. There's some other Jewish places that they do 12 steps or no. They don't integrate. Remember, everybody has a spiritual counselor, an addiction counselor, and a therapist, a treatment team. That's how much we help people know that they matter. So we get 600 calls for 20 beds. We're triaging. Everybody gets talked to. Everybody. Can you imagine? We don't let anybody, we never say, no room, sorry, bye. We talk to the people, we find out what they need. We find out who else can help. We talk about where else they could go, what else they can do. The shanda is that there's not another Jewish program. But there might be. Because we are looking into opening a Beit Tshuva type program in New York. That's where I was last week, looking at the viability. And I have to say, to the credit of the Federation, that they were welcoming. Oh yeah, there's an opioid crisis now. This crisis has been going on for a long time. And it's not just about opioids. So, the one thing that we don't do is we don't do medication-assisted treatment. For people who want harm reduction, we send them other places. We do, actually the one treatment we do is Vivitrol, which is a once-a-month shot. Philosophically, we're opposed to the Suboxone and Methadone because we see what happens to people. They're not whole, they're not right. And for people who need harm reduction, Quakers Under Hate we support it. So we're an abstinence-based, recovery-based. We help people recover their passions and discover their purpose. We're advocates for the soul. Every spiritual counselor is an advocate for the soul of the person. How are you advocating for your own soul? See, my deal is questions. Rabbi Ashel says that we have to recover the questions. So I read that first thing, what will life get out of me? How would you like to do an inventory? For 1 week, I challenge you. Do an inventory. What did life get out of me today? It's very frightening. I do it probably every 6 months for a week. Now, I'm going to go into tshuva a little bit. So if I'm redundant later, you guys just stop me and I'll do something else, okay? Whoever comes to that workshop. Do you know that tshuva was put into the world before the world was created, according to our sages? I add, because God knew we would screw up and need a way back. Do you know that we're supposed to do tshuva one day before we die? None of us know the day of our death, so we should do tshuva every day. When's the last time you did a tshuva? When's the last time you did a cheshbon and nefesh? You actually looked Then accounting of your soul, what you do well and what you don't do well. Most schools don't even talk about this, much less teach it until Rosh Hashanah. And it amazes me because all of our heroes have clay feet. All of our heroes make mistakes. King David. King David, according to some that I've read, suffered from melancholy and sex addiction. But nobody talks about it. So Rivka, Rachel, and Leah, they were listened to, yet also treated as property. Remember Avram Avinu pimped mom twice, threw one kid out, and I was still young. And nobody's talking about it. You have an opportunity today and every day. And going forward, you have an amazing opportunity to take what you learned today, but most of all, to take your souls. Take your souls so that when you see somebody who has a mental illness, you don't say, oh, never. You say, welcome. How can I help you? How can I be someone that you can talk to? Because when people come to a rabbi and they have mental illness, they're not coming because they don't know about a shrink. They're coming to find out, with this disease, what good am I in life? What's the purpose of my life? What meaning do I have for anybody? I'm just sick. And we're here to tell them, no, you're needed. You're worthy. We love you. When you meet somebody who says, I have an addiction, you welcome them and you say, come home. Then today is meaningful. Then today matters. Then today you actually learn. Thank you very much. I'm also open to any questions and Sharon, maybe you'll answer questions with me. What do you think? Anybody have any questions, thoughts, or anything? This many Jews and there's no questions, are there? Yes, ma'am.
I'm just wondering, your program started as a halfway house for prison inmates. Do you still serve that population, or do you know of any Jewish sources that do still serve that population?
I'm glad you asked that question. We still go, we have a part of our program that gets no funding. That goes to jails and prisons in Los Angeles and covers the entire state of California as well as across the country. That does alternative sentencing, and we do prison visitation. We do a lot of letter writing, and people come to us after jail or prison. And we also have a whole program where we get people before jail and prison. We've gotten people out of New York, out of New York State courts. We've got people from Massachusetts. We've got people from all over the country. By the way, that's the other thing. We get people from all over the United States to this. So yes, we continue to do it. B'nai B'rith does it in some places. But I don't know of any other Jewish organization, which is a shanda, I would like to say to the people from the combined Jewish philanthropies. We got Jews in jails and prisons. How come we're not visiting them? Many of them are there because of mental illness as well as addiction. 80 to 90% of people who go to jail and prison are there because of mental illness and addiction. How come we're not helping them? Delivering social services, getting them started on medication and or starting to let them know that this Jewish community loves them. I would just like to suggest that, not that I'm being pushy. Yes, sir?
It seems like a common trope in terms of people with mental illness or addiction in community is either we don't have the right resources for them, or other community members will feel unsafe if they're a part of our community. And I'm wondering how you respond to leaders, thinkers, people who are wanting to bring these people in are facing like very strong resistance because of those tropes or that thing. Sure. The question is essentially, right, it seems like just common tropes that people try to use to bar people with addiction and mental illness from the community is either we don't have adequate resources as a community to fully support and welcome the person in, or enough other community members will feel unsafe if this person is fully integrated in our community. And so I'm wondering what ways we can help counteract that resistance and build communities where people are.
So the first thing I want to do is slap or choke whoever says that. That's just my, you know, you can take the boy out of the street, you don't take the street out of the boy. I would just tell them they're not Jewish. Show me a Jewish community that didn't love them. If you're gonna put somebody out because of mental illness or addiction because you don't feel safe, then guess what? The problem is within you, Mr. or Mrs. I would say to the leaders, why don't you study what community is? Why don't you study that piece from Sanhedrin? Why don't you study Rabbi Escher? Why don't you study really all of our tradition? Judaism is a tradition that gives voice to the voiceless and power to the powerless. I asked you, tell them what the prophets of old would say to them. I would say to those people, take your sacrifices, take your tzedakah, and shove it, because you are only trying to buy your way into something because you're not living what you say. You're not living the principles of who we are as Jews and what Judaism really is about. And just so you know, I turned away a guy who offered me $1 million who had terrible business practices, and I wouldn't take his money because I'm not going to clean up slumlords and people who are indecent. And that's a hard thing to do for a charity that exists only on donations. But if we don't stand up for our principles, then what kind of leaders are we? Do you have anything you want to add? What?
Couldn't possibly.
I'm sorry. I should have let you go first. Yes, ma'am.
I have kind of a logistical question about your program. So, professionally, what I do is I advise families of teenagers and young adults who have a mental illness and autism spectrum disorder, and I increasingly have a number of clients or parents of clients who have marijuana addiction, and the clients are 17, 18 years old, and I'm wondering if you serve that population, and also, since these kids are living in Massachusetts and might want to return to Massachusetts, how you would integrate them back into this community after they would finish in your program.
Great question. So we take everybody 18 and above. They have to be over 18. That's just the laws of the state of California. So yes, and then, because there's a whole group of young people who are smoking dope, but really what they have is failure to launch, it's called. They don't know what to do. I had one failure to launch kid whose mother called me up and said, listen, I'm sending my maid over to do to make my son's bed and do his laundry. I said, I said, great. I think that's a wonderful idea. because she'll be making his bed at your house and taking his clothes with him as he goes with her and leaves our facility. Woman was shocked. But he's never made his bed. He's 21 years old, I think he should learn. So, and then we hook people up with, in the community. A, with people we know because we've served a lot of people, and B, we hook them up like, with a 12-step group and with schools.
No, some of these kids are not failure to launch, some of them are, it's mental
Right,
illness.
no, I know, so, but I'm saying that we just then put them back into the community, we work with the family, we have family weeks and things like that. Somebody over here, yes, sir?
Thank you, this is great. I wanted to ask, you're talking a lot about, it seems to me you're discussing a lot about how we help these individuals on a micro level, right, on an individual level, which is, right, how do you have to start, you have to build your way from the bottom up. You mentioned how there's an opioid crisis there always seems to have been one, but it seems to be coming out of the woodwork now.
Yeah, because white kids are dying.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true, and everyone's dying, and they always have been, and we see that. I'm from Pennsylvania, I know PA, Ohio, New Hampshire, and West Virginia are the four.
Worse.
My big brother's a paramedic. He goes to an overdose every shift he's on, maybe 2 or 3. Means it's.
If he's only going to one.
It's alarming. Well, I'm from a smaller town.
Okay.
We have 155 deaths at the end of 2017 as related to overdoses. I'm curious what you would say, or what PT2 says about, or if it's even worth doing. Is it better to focus on the micro level, on the individual level to help individual folks, or is there a method that you think is appropriate or that PT2 does to, along with the individual, help if there's a national or state level or macro, whatever that may be, approach to getting the same outcome as you've been discussing on an individual level?
Okay, so first of all, we have a success rate of about 65% after 5 years, which is 65 to 70% after 5 years of sobriety, which is a really excellent success rate. Yeah, I think that there should be more places. I think more religious traditions should be doing this across the country. And there's a prevention program. There's outpatients. Outpatient program. We have a whole prevention program for middle school and high school that we have, and that I think should be really implemented in more places, because it also deals on the macro and the micro. But all of recovery is about the individual. Now, maybe when our country decides that they want to be in truth instead of in audacity, we could actually start to solve some of these problems and issues. Yes, ma'am.
We're likely going to be not only working with folks who have mental illness or who are dealing with addiction, but also their families. So I'm curious to hear if there are differences in how, or what the differences are, and how we should think about caring for families who have loved ones dealing with these.
Right, so here's the deal, okay? Every family who has a loved one who's